So I'm just hanging out here in my garage again. Welcome back here. But I did another trip to the coast to coast again this year, and I did it on my 2023 Pan America. We left Pennsylvania and rode to California and up the coast, up to Washington, and then came back. Stopped in Sturgis for a couple of days, and stopped at different friends' houses on the way out and way back, relatives, friends. And then I came home for a couple of days, actually 2 nights, a night and a half, whatever. I came home like 3 a.m. Friday morning. Sunday morning, we left. My wife joined me and we rode up to Maine. So that completed the coast to coast trip from Pacific coast to the Atlantic coast. And at any rate, I broke it up into 3 different videos because one was just getting way too long. So I broke this one up into 3 different videos. So enjoy the videos. The first one's from Pennsylvania to California and then up into Washington. And then the second one starts with heading back from Washington and has Sturgis in it and my way back home to where I got back home to Lancaster. And then the third one is the trip that my wife and I finished it out, went from Pennsylvania to Maine, and then back to PA. So that's how I broke it up this time. Divided it out a little bit so that instead of one, hour and a half or 2 hour video, a couple of shorter ones.
Jason was with me for part of this trip, and we left our house early on July 22nd. And we headed towards, our first stop was in Illinois, but we took Route 50. We took some highways and then got on Route 50 and found a campground in Effingham area, Illinois. Got set up there. It was a beautiful place. Had a nice lake, and our campsite where we both set up hammocks that evening, but our campsite was just up from where we had a slight view of the lake. But it's a pretty nice property. It's a pretty nice place. Spent some evening there, got something to eat down the street. Next day we headed for Missouri, and I stopped to see Larry Yeager at Yeager Cycles. I've been following his YouTube stuff and stuff on the Pan America, and wanted to chat with him, and finally got to catch up with him. From there, we headed over to friends of ours who have a ranch in Fort Scott, Kansas, and there we spent 2 nights there, and spent the one day just hanging out at the ranch and having fun, enjoying the area. They had a couple of guest rooms, and it was very nice. They have a nice property, and the ranch is wonderful. And there was a sign as you walked in to the into where we were staying that said, "Unless you're Jason Aldean or Luke Bryan, remove your boots." Well, neither one of us were Jason Aldean or Luke Bryan, so the boots came off. But we got a kick out of that. Made a joke out of that. But at any rate, very nice accommodations there. And as we learned more about the ranch and did some touring around there, Montana showed us a lot of it. And then she wanted to go for a ride, so she got on the back of my bike, and we went out to Fort Scott, Kansas, and she showed us around town, a couple of different places, a couple of nice restaurants, or decent little bars and restaurants that they like to go to. Fort Scott's a small town, but we enjoyed it. I love the small towns, places like that. And the best way to do this is, my wife and I talk about it a lot, and I like to do it on these trips too. Find locals and, ask them, where do you go? Where do you enjoy? What do you enjoy? What parts of town do you enjoy seeing? So she actually showed us this one place that they had a bike night going on that evening, which is typically small. It's not like in Lancaster we have, bike nights. I mean, it's nothing new to have 50, 100 or more bikes. But a small town, Jason and I went out later that evening, got a bite to eat, and just hung out, got to meet some of the locals. And not a lot of bikes showed up, but a few bikes, and of course everybody was questioning, hey, Pennsylvania, what are you doing? So you get to chat with people and share what you're doing, the trip you're taking, and you get to learn the trips they took, chatting with people, chatting with locals, find out the good roads in the area that they like riding, and that type of stuff. That's what makes it fun. Getting to know the locals and knowing where they enjoy riding and what they like to do, the local roads and the local bars and that type of stuff. What's that? After we left there, the ranch, as we traveled through western Kansas and eastern Colorado, if you've traveled these roads or that area, you know what it's like. It is flat. It gets kind of boring, but you can set cruise and you can make some time, even on the 2-lane roads. But as you get closer to Colorado Springs, that area, you get into some nice mountains again. We headed for Bishop's Castle. Actually, we stopped and got oil because we decided, my nephew lives in Canyon City, I guess I'm saying that correctly, in Colorado, and we wanted to change oil at his place, so we stopped and got some oil. But after we got the oil and the filters, we headed to Bishop's Castle, and this place is amazing. I don't have time to go into the whole story behind Bishop's Castle. You can look it up if you want. Make sure you're looking up the one in Colorado, but it's amazing what this guy did. And I had been there before, and I was thirsty and wanted a snack, so I got a Mountain Dew and a candy bar, and one of his goats, he was very interested in what I had. And came up, we became pretty good friends there for a little bit. But this castle was it's built by hand. I mean, an older gentleman did it. Well, he's older now. But this guy, it just incredible. So as we walked around there, Jason walked all the way to the top. I had done it before, so I just sat down at the bottom and hung out and waited and had some conversations with different people. But after we left there, we headed to Canyon City and Skyline Drive. And this is the one in Colorado. I know there's one in Virginia too, but this is a different one. Again, I'd been on it before. Jason had, and I said, well, you got to check this out. And the views from Skyline Drive to the vantage point there is just incredible, just amazing. And it was a nice clear evening, so that's helpful also. When you have a nice clear evening or nice clear days, if you have a lot of cloud cover, definitely changes the scenery a lot. But it was beautiful this evening, the evening we were there. After we met my nephew at his house, changed the oil, and then we headed for Westcliff, and we stayed in Westcliff and headed up to Hermit's Mountain the next day. And of course, there was some snow up there yet, and so I had a little snowball threw a few snowballs just to have some fun. Yeah, we got to meet some of the local little critters and saw some bighorn sheep. Got pretty close to them. We got to within about 15 yards of these things. It was amazing. It was a pretty incredible sight. Also stopped to check out some of the lakes. Hermit's Mountain is another beautiful area. Just the scenery is absolutely gorgeous. Again, we were blessed with a wonderful day with weather, perfect weather for that trip. The next day we had continued to head west. We did stay in Grand Junction, Colorado that evening. And we took 50 and where it ties together with Interstate 70. Another where they run together their way. A little bit. And Route 50, it's considered the loneliest road in America. And I can understand why. There's a lot of miles where there's just nothing. And you better have gas. Make sure you get gas at the gas stations where you can. As far as interstate, there's a couple of stretches where 50 and 70 run together where there's no gas. It's some of the nicest interstates you'll see, at least in my opinion. The scenery is gorgeous through Utah, Nevada. It's very nice. Took Route 50 and stayed on Route 50 for around the southern, I guess it'd be the southeast end of Lake Tahoe. Again, just some beautiful views. Nice area. So far, we had only had a little bit of rain early in the week, but nothing major. So we had some great weather, which we were thankful for. But we ended up heading towards a small town, Placerville, I think is how it's pronounced, California. And that evening we got a motel room. Just a small town, nice little town. Ate at one of the local saloons. Got ourselves a great meal, excellent burgers. And the next day we headed for, well, I guess we would have taken Route 20 into Fort Bragg, California, and we got to the coast, the West Coast. Coastal Highway and Route 101, just beautiful scenes through Napa Valley and all of that. We headed towards Oregon, and we wanted to go all the way up into Washington, but we headed for Oregon, and we were planning on staying at a friend of ours' house. A friend of ours. It was the first time I had actually met her. A good friend of mine had hooked me up with his niece, and her husband, who live in Oregon. And they said, hey, yeah, sure, set the tents up here at our house. But we rode up Route 1. They had fresh pavement on there. Man, was that fun. That is a great road. Really get into the curves if you want to, or just take your time. It doesn't matter, but it was a lot of fun. They hadn't even finished all the mark, like the center lines and all that kind of stuff wasn't painted on yet. So a lot of fun, great roadway. If you ever get the chance, get out there and ride it. The one fuel stop, we were stopping for gas, and we pulled in at a whole field full of elk off to the right side. That's pretty common for that area, I guess, but it was the first we'd seen a big herd like that. We had a beautiful setting and a beautiful evening to camp. The next day, as we continued to head north up towards Washington, the weather changed. We had storm after storm after storm coming in off the coast, and we just kept getting hit with. But we kept going. We did about 400 miles in some pretty heavy rain that day, and we didn't get as far north as what I had hoped to. But I got tired of the rain, so we said, the heck with it. We changed plans, and we started heading east. And that turned out to be a pretty good move, because as soon as we started to head east, we started to get away from the coast and get away from some of the worst of the storms. So sometimes you make adjustments when you're out there riding, when you're doing trips like this. You know, you don't always get to go or do exactly what you had initially planned on doing. And you make adjustments, you know, you work your way around weather and that type of stuff. So that's the way it goes. And you go with the flow sometimes. We made it to a small town called Morton, Washington, and Seasons Motel. And we spent the night there so that we could get our clothes dried off, at least most of them. Next day, I tied some of my clothes to the bike. Some of the stuff that didn't dry out overnight. Left it dry during the day while we were riding. So that's it for this video. The next video, I'm going to have Beartooth Pass and 10 Sleep and Sturgis. And we'll go from there. That's part 1.